Mark, welcome. How are you doing today?
I'm very well, thanks.
Thank you so much for being on the podcast. It's an honor speaking with you, especially as you're someone I've followed for a very long time since I purchased your book, The Business of SEO.
Yeah, that's fantastic to be here.
Awesome, awesome. So I came across you. I saw that you're essentially relatively open to speaking with me. I almost saw this as a long shot, but I thought I'd message you on LinkedIn, and I thought to get your take on a number of topics, five or six topics. So I want to cover your background in SEO very quickly. I see that you're very much someone who's keen on training SEO. So I want to get your take on training for SEOs and non-SEOs, specifically brand side. Want to cover your book, The Business of SEO, your take on hiring in SEO. So essentially what brands should consider when hiring an SEO and the SEO community at large. And then we'll finish off with the year ahead for you. So,
Okay, sounds
with,
great.
with all of that said, all of that ramble said, I like to ask my guests how they got started in SEO. So with that said, how did you enter this very interesting, dynamic industry?
Well, like many people, I was probably doing SEO before I'd even heard the word SEO. I'm historically a mechanic and agricultural engineer, but the truth is, due to my daughter's health issues at the time, I needed to find something that I could do at home and have the flexibility of hospital appointments.
Mm-hmm.
And as I started looking around and I just built a website, then I started thinking, well, how can I get people to look at it and buy stuff?
Yeah.
And where can I go? And literally the first 3 to 5 years of my career in the industry was me just literally building websites, getting them ranked for various related things and driving traffic. And it were a mixture of affiliate marketing and lead generation. Because I had affiliate links on the websites. I actually had about 100 plus websites, all in different industries, covering different things, ranking very well, and literally selling leads. And for me, it weren't hard. It was just that I just researched who those businesses was and asked them if they need leads. And it literally started from there. And I made a lot of money doing that. Then, for some reason, I got a brainwave to start my own agency.
You say it very, it's interesting the way you say it. Start your own agency. Why
Well,
agency?
well, I don't know. It was just, I got a lot of people coming to me and saying, Mark, I've seen what you're doing. Can you do it for our business? And literally, you're just one person and you just can't do everything. And so I ended up selling all my websites and starting an agency. And that was my first agency. Having said that, I made an awful lot more just being me.
Really? Huh.
Yeah. Because obviously when it were just me and the websites and I was selling leads, it's just me I have to find money for. It's just me, I was just working from my bedroom. You start an agency and you have all these unexpected outlays and not unexpected salaries, but basically you're the bottom of the pile. You're the last run. When it comes to dishing out money every month, you think, well, all these other entities and all these other people have to come before you.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that because I've been a consultant for a while now. So I've worked both client side, agency side, and consultant as a consultant. And it was last year when I actually sat down to think, okay, where do I want my career path to go? Do I want to go the more traditional route, i.e., eventually become my own agency or have my own agency? Or do I want to take the more media route? And when I actually sat down to think about it, it was quite an easy decision for me. The media route was my path. Hence this podcast and why I'm putting so much time and effort into it. I find that I don't know. I prefer the if you like the freedom that not having an agency will bring to me, because having an agency, essentially the time is a big aspect, right? So you can service different types of offerings, but eventually it all comes down to time. And do I want to be working X amount of time every single month? For me, the answer was no. It was quite an easy decision eventually. So yeah, I can relate to why thinking forward, I can relate to why an agency probably wouldn't be the best bet for a number of SEOs, I would say, especially those that come via the affiliate route, because I find that SEOs who became SEOs by affiliate marketing, they're very much independent in the way they approach things, and to then be tied down with all the issues with an agency, it's not necessarily the best route as far as SEO is concerned. Now, you're very wise and have years and years of experience. What was SEO like let's say when you started?
Uh, it was realistically just people trying to understand what to do.
Mm,
It was just people coming up with ideas and testing. I feel there was a lot more testing back then. So
right.
if, like for me, I had 100 plus websites, not one of them was a customer, they were all mine.
Mm,
So I could test what I wanted. So if I come up with an idea, I could test it. And if it didn't work, it didn't work. If it did, brilliant. I could roll it out. But I did an awful lot of testing back then because there wasn't like the resources available that there is now. There wasn't like massive case studies being done. I mean, there were no social media. There were no one, it
yeah.
was just the odd one or two forums.
I remember those
It
forums.
was literally a case of just testing. And for me, it was looking at what everybody else was doing, but not replicating what they was doing.
Right.
For me, right from the very start, I've always looked for differentiators, opportunities.
Hmm.
What are other people not doing that I could? What are they doing wrong? So even back then, it wasn't a case of just following what everyone else was doing, which most of the industry usually does now anyway. It
Yeah.
was literally a case of looking at and testing.
Mm,
Just basically had all these websites ranking really well, and achieving some fantastic traffic numbers for then,
mm,
So literally, I think that for me personally, I haven't really changed what I've always done. I've always stuck true to myself, and because I've not just followed the crowd, I've done my own thing.
hmm.
And I think one thing that stands out for me, I don't try to do SEO. That's the big differentiator. I don't try to do SEO. What I do is try to drive business. And it just so happens what I'm doing, Google seem to like.
Right.
And I think that's the big difference.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, because there is this mindset that I find that a lot of SEOs who've been in the industry for a number of years tend to have. They tend to be very focused on, they're almost like business developers rather than SEO for the sake of search engines, right? So, and I find that those who have that sort of mindset, it's almost like a growth mindset, right? They're able to help businesses develop, not just from a search engine point of view, but also a business point of view. So they understand how non-SEOs impacts the SEO department, for example. And I see that on your website, one of the services that you offer is training, and SEO training is a big area these days for both SEOs and non-SEOs. I want to focus specifically on brands. Now, let's say I am a CMO. Why do I need the rest of the marketing department to be trained in SEO?
Well, there's different aspects. One, I've worked with a lot of brands on training, and I've gone in and they've been very focused on things, right? So again, a lot of things I do when I'm training is mindset things. It's understanding the overall business and how that specific marketing team fits into it. It's understanding what their individual goals are. You know, it's understanding what every single person around that table does on a daily basis. And think if it needs somebody from, I think, outside of the ecosystem to go in and look at things and analyze things, and just, it's like, I feel as though training, it's like I go in and there's a jigsaw puzzle, but it's all broken up. Right? So they'll have this over here, that over here, but it's all broken up. And the training is for me to go in and help them piece the jigsaw together. And that's I find as though a lot of training I do is more on the strategy side. It is more on helping the individuals or content team or whoever they are to understand why they're doing what they're doing.
Right.
You know, understanding and to get them to justify what they're doing. And the biggest word is why. Whenever I've asked why, they can either give me an answer or they can't.
Right.
And I find as though for brands, I've worked with many big brands in the past, and on a consulting and training basis, and you need to understand as a trainer the restrictions of that business, because I've spoke to a lot of CMOs and I said, well, you know, what will you get past and what you won't? Because it's no good me doing a training session saying, oh, you can do all this stuff if the CMO will not get it passed by the board.
Yeah.
And because I've had experience pitching to boards, I can relate to that. So it's understanding all these things in advance. So like I said, it's not just me going in and teaching them how to do keyword research or how to do link building. That is just a part, that's just a piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
You know, and I find as though the biggest issues within brand is actually getting things passed.
Yeah. The implementation.
You know, so I might help the CMO to understand what, you know, how to tweak things on what needs to be done to get things passed. So that's not necessarily training, but it all fits together.
Yeah. Got you. Got you. So let's say this awareness being spread around different departments, right? Wouldn't that mean an SEO will eventually become redundant?
No, absolutely not. Because if you sack the SEO team, who's going to do the work? It's just, you know, it's a fact. It's SEO is part of the puzzle. You take one piece away, the puzzle will never fit together properly.
Right.
You know, and unless your whole marketing strategy is reliant on just driving as much money as possible within a certain amount of time, well, you know, SEO's going to be needed.
Now, on your website, you stated that you give marketers and brand a business development SEO mindset. What does this mean?
Right. It's important for marketers, whether they're content writers or strategists or the SEO individuals. A lot of these people have never run a business. They don't understand what it's like from a business side. And basically, a lot of them just see it as playing with someone else's money.
Right.
We'll try something. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And for me, it's making the whole team, every individual, think as though that they own that business. They are responsible for that business. I mean, to justify what they're doing. You know, is there a better way? And for me, if they get into the business side of the mindset and think, well, if I had to actually pay for this, would I actually do it? You know, if you were responsible, would you actually do that? And a lot of time, there is many other things that could be done that would generate more impact.
Right. So all of this, right, it sounds good. It sounds brilliant, actually. But it also sounds very expensive. And it seems as though it's just for like one channel SEO. Isn't it better to just stick with PPC? This way you do away with all this headache.
I mean, it's not one or the other. It comes down to budgets within companies. If the company has budget to do both SEO and PPC, that's what they should be doing. Because systems like AdWords give SEOs access to a lot more data than organic does.
Right.
You can use PPC to test to see if a certain page converts. You know, even before you've got it ranked, and what PPC does, it allows you to understand what keywords and intent drives sales and conversions and leads. So it's not a case of you shouldn't do one or the other. If at all possible, you should do both, but that business has got to understand that the SEO growth will take a little time to achieve. Right? So that business has got to sustain the upfront investment required in order for that to happen. And I think a lot of businesses don't get that right. And a lot of businesses think, you know, it's about education. And that's part and parcel of going in to do training.
Right.
It's educating, you know, I'll walk into the CEO's office and chat to them, to understand things. And I think it's not one or the other. And that's what, it's important to understand.
So, again, sticking as a CMO, how do I explain all of this education to the board? Because at the end of the day, they want the bottom line, right? They want to see return on investments quickly. Yesterday, in fact. But all of these training workshops, it sounds as though it's going to take quite a long time. And me as a CMO, I have these stakeholders to report to. So how would I go about explaining all of this to the board and have them see at a very long road, there is a substantial return on investment?
Are you talking about explaining the board to get the training or the outcome?
Both. So to get the training, which will eventually leads to the outcome, right?
Okay, right. Again, it's about not going too deep and not going too technical.
Okay.
Every business has a goal. The CMO will have goals and objectives and targets, right? Mm-hmm. And it's the CMO's job to put a plan together to make that happen. If part of that strategy and plan is to bring somebody in to help educate and upskill the team, well, that's just part of the plan. Why should they do that? Because often there are quick wins. Often there are things that the team has not thought about. It's getting an outside view on things, an outside view from somebody that's run businesses and they've taken on staff, they understand how to manage teams. And often the strategy that's in place isn't working, and that's why they want me to go in anyway.
Right.
It's not, there's an awful lot that can be done to tweak things for rapid gains. There's an awful lot that can be done for these brands to actually, make a big difference. And the starting point is, let's try and improve what you've already got. So the strategy isn't on, right, how much more traffic can we drive? The initial strategy is on, well, how much traffic do we have? And how can we get that traffic converting more? Is it the right traffic? Where in the sales funnel all this traffic coming in? In many cases, I've gone into brands and they're generating a lot of traffic, but it's after sales traffic. And all they're doing is servicing the competitors. Yeah. Simple things like that. Yeah. It's about, well, what areas do you want to target? Well, you're not targeting them. It's all these little things that makes a big difference. And if you don't have somebody to come in to outline that, they'll just carry on, and only a small percentage will be real impact.
Mm. Now, you mentioned time frame earlier. In your experience, how long does it take? I get this question all the time, and me as a CMO, I've come across the 6 months time frame, and I know that's not true. So realistically, how long will it take for SEO to show results?
Right. Over the years, I've obviously, like you, I've had this question many times. And my reply is always the same. Time frame for what? He said, for SEO to work, what does that actually mean?
Right.
The one question I found very, very beneficial to ask CMOs and CEOs and business owners is, what needs to happen for you to see this campaign as positive? Right? Because a lot of strategies and plans and timescales are put together based on things they're not aware of. You see? So as the SEO team, whatever the board perceives as real impact, that's what you've got to focus on first. If you don't believe that they are going down the right path, then again, you have to not prove they're wrong, but get the board to justify why they think that's the right approach. Mm-hmm. And if you get the board to justify why they think it's the right approach, then you can start to go in and say, well, okay, I'm listening, but if we just tweak this and tweak that, and maybe, we can move the budget from there to there and do all these things, wouldn't it be a lot better? And I find is a lot of those conversations are bull in a china shop, because they go in and say, well, this is it. You want SEO to work. It's going to take at least 6 months because that's what everybody says. But for me, it's about the stairs. It's about each step. Let's achieve each step one at a time. Let's analyze what's happened. Let's tweak things. And I think if we're in a mindset of baby steps, then the end goal probably will be a lot different if we say that. So as far as timescales are concerned, the timescale is actually endless. And it can be 2 weeks,
Yeah.
And I think concentrate on one thing at a time rather than have this, you have this, think of it, you have this massive goal at the top, but you have lots and lots of mini goals in order to achieve that massive goal. Well, let's concentrate on those mini goals month by month, and collectively we'll achieve that. And as a consultant, it also gets the client starting to think long term.
Yeah. You have such an amazing mind. Do you think SEO has shaped you to be this way, or do you think you're this way and just happen to have fallen into an industry that...
No, SEO's definitely not shaped me to think like this, 100%. Running my own businesses, running my own agencies. I've run and built a 50 franchisee white label digital marketing franchise. I've done lots of things. In the time, and it's challenges you face. It's things that come across as an individual that makes me think like this. I don't actually think like an SEO at all, which maybe sounds strange, but that's not thinking like an SEO is what seems to make things happen.
Wow. Let's get on to the business side of SEO. So I mentioned just before we got on the call, this was the first SEO book I read and thoroughly enjoyed it. What prompted you to write this book?
Right. The honest story is I never intended to write a book. I had a conversation in the office one day, and I was so angry. And I got home and I started writing a tweet, but it just didn't, it just like something. And I thought, well, okay, I'm going to write an article. So, but I want to write it not on SEO techniques. I want to write it based on the business side, because something happened with somebody and they literally lost everything because of a third party. I just wanted to write it on the business side, but an honest story. And I remember going to White Hat SEO Facebook group, which was probably one of the biggest Facebook groups around. And I just said, look, I'm thinking of writing this article. And do you have any questions about the actual business side of SEO rather than SEO techniques? And I got lots and lots of questions, and I started writing the article, and it was going on and on and on and on and on. Then I remember I was down the south of England in my car waiting to go into a training gig with a global company, and I don't know what happened, but I started a conversation with a publisher, and I just said, well, it's so I mean, I wasn't even good enough for the bottom set of English, so me creating a book, and together we pieced it together and made it happen, and hence I launched the book. If I didn't have that conversation with that publisher, I'd have never have published a book. It had always just have stayed as an article.
If you were to write another book, let's say anytime in the near future, what would it be about?
Right, for me, it has, like my book now. My book is still relevant now than it was 5 years ago or whenever I wrote it, because it's the business side. For me, I don't see the point in writing a book for me personally if it's about techniques that's going to be outdated next year.
Yeah.
I want to write books that's going to have real value and maybe life-changing value to individuals, not just now, but when I've retired. So it's, for me, books are about changing people's lives. It's about making a real difference. It's not about how you can get this website linked to that website. It's about, for me, I think with my background, it will be something around the industry. It will be around mindset, be around how to think about things. And that's probably, I've thought about starting another book many times.
What is holding you from publishing another one or writing another one?
Well, the first one I wrote, I totally took, I think, 3 or 4 weeks out. Totally. Everything. It was just me, locked myself in a room with no social media, no nothing, and I just wrote it. If in the future I can find a month where I can just take time out and go hire a cottage in the middle of nowhere with no internet, then yeah, I'd probably do it. It's just that obviously day-to-day life and things, it's busy. Things crop up and distract you, and it's just the circle of life. And I think for me, I truly enjoy writing, and my passion comes out in my writing when I'm totally alone. I've nothing, nothing saying, well, you need to finish this in an hour so I can, that I just, literally, it's all in my head and I just put it down on paper.
Do you find that SEOs these days focus too much on techniques and the technical aspect of things and less so about, let's say, the business side and or soft skills?
You have to think about where that SEO fits in that particular business, right? Yeah. And you have to think about what is going to create impact within that business, right? Now, a big global brand that's generating millions upon millions upon millions of visitors every day, and a global brand that basically, is very well recognized, well, you need a team to focus on the technical side. Because for one, it only takes one thing to happen or one thing to update that could cost that business millions.
Yeah.
It's not about SEO should focus on this or that. It's about what should SEOs focus on for that individual business to match their individual goals and objectives in their individual industry.
Yeah.
And this is what I think. So when the industry went crazy about, well, all SEOs need to start learning Python. No, they don't. Yeah. Unless they don't. I mean, half the SEOs that were learning Python doesn't even know what the reason was they're learning Python. It's just the industry said, there's this new shiny thing. They need to learn it. No, they don't. Unless you're building some system to streamline things, Python SEO is not for you.
Yeah. Totally agree. I find that SEOs these days focus too much on SEO as an industry, and I always like to differentiate it as an SEO industry and then the SEO for the specific brands that one works for. So, for example, an SEO who's working in a retail company, the state of SEO within that business and also the industry, the retail industry, is more important than SEO overall. Because as you just mentioned with the Python example, yes, Python is a great avenue for an SEO if it's relevant to that specific need. If it's not, then you don't need to be a Python SEO to be an SEO. You can focus on other things. And I think the focus should always be dependent on what the business needs rather than what the SEO community says that one needs. And I think this it's taking people away from testing themselves and into following specific SEOs within the industry. And I think that's a big mistake.
Yeah, I think that another thing to think about is SEOs come into the industry and they don't really understand the industry yet. Mm-hmm. They don't really understand where the direction they want to go in is.
Yeah.
So like an SEO will come in and learn all the foundations and everything. Then there's lots of sub-directions they can go in.
Yeah.
Digital PR, they can go in content, they can go in technical SEO. They have to have a passion and want to do something. Mm. And if SEOs focused on their passion, then that's a bigger thing. they're going to excel in that because they really want and have a desire to learn that and that direction. You know, I've been mentoring an SEO, and you know, he's learned himself that maybe doing the foundation stuff isn't for him. He wants to focus on more the technical side. So, you know, that's the direction he's going in now. So in order for him to get from where he is now to where he wants to get, what are the specific things within that business he needs to learn in order to get there?
Right.
And I think that's the thing. It's not about you should learn X or Y or Z. It's about, well, you know, what is the individual passion? You know, there's a reason why they want to get there. Well, okay, maybe you don't have the skill set yet to get to where you want, but what are the things you need to learn in order for you to get there? And any company or any agency or any brand that you work with should, you know, explain how that can happen.
Now, when it comes to hiring and SEO, there is a vast amount of different types of SEO that one can look to hire. And I'm sure you've been asked this question before, but let's say someone who's brand side is looking to hire an SEO, their first SEO. What would you say they should bear in mind?
What are the missing gaps? So literally, they're not hiring an SEO, they are hiring an individual to maybe solve problems and get them from where they are now to where they need to be. Right. It might be that there's a plan, and within that plan, there's gaps within the SEO. So when it comes to hiring, it's really being in the mindset of matching an individual into the business, matching them into the plan, you know, is rather than looking at an individual, say, right, you're an SEO because it says SEO on your CV. Well, we'll hire you. What have you done? Oh, I've worked here, I've worked there, I've worked on that brand. But when you actually start to talk to these individuals, they're probably just a very small piece of the puzzle. And what they've done has been extremely brilliant, but it's only been a tiny piece. And without all these other things, it wouldn't, the impact they said they've achieved probably wouldn't have achieved. Right? So when it's hiring, it's realistically looking at individuals and being honest with their skill set. For me, personally, I mean, I've hired lots of people over the years and helped companies to hire people. And for me, passion is the number one thing. They've got to have a passion and a desire to want to do this. Mm-hmm. Skills, techniques can be taught, right? So that comes second, as far as I'm concerned. And for me personally, I've never actually asked anybody if they have a degree or not. Because, you know, I mean, there's so many job adverts that request, well, you have to have a degree. Well, you know, why? The degree might be on, you know, archaeology. It doesn't matter, but it's a degree. You know, it's, for me, passion is the utmost thing when it comes to recruitment. And if you have a passionate team, they're going to want to excel. And it's understanding each individual as well. You know, I've hired people that said to me, well, I just want to come in at 9 o'clock and go home at 5 and that's it. That's fine. They're not bothered. They don't want to progress up the ladder. That is fine. It's understanding that individual. Now, if they don't want to climb the ladder, you can put a different planning for their individual piece of the puzzle. And I think a lot of it is based on titles. You know, it's just so out of place, basing things on titles and climbing the ladder and things. And there should be flexibility because people probably don't know what they want in the future. And there has to be flexibility within companies and teams to actually tweak things.
I find that it's particularly an issue with SEO because it's so new within digital marketing, and a lot of businesses are not yet sure of how to go ahead and shape an SEO because it's so new. It's not necessarily the newest channel. Social is newer than SEO, but because it has this mystique about it almost, that businesses tend to just use something that they consider traditional and stick with that rather than to tailor it to an individual's need. IC, for example, is becoming more and more popular. Well, that's because a lot of people are learning more about SEO and understanding it, not from a technical, this is how you do SEO point of view, but understanding the mindset of an SEO. So I'm looking forward to businesses being more aware of SEO.
Yeah, I think another problem is HR does the recruiting. They don't know anything about SEO.
Yeah.
And that's why these specific SEO recruitment companies are very much needed. Because how is the HR team meant to do the recruitment? And I find that within businesses, especially when they're trying to recruit somebody senior, there's nobody within that business that actually understands SEO. So when they're recruiting, they are just hoping that what's being told to them is right.
Yeah.
You know, and I find that on next month, I'm going into a business to do nothing but help them recruit somebody. You know, is because they don't understand the depths of SEO. They don't understand if the person they're recruiting's got what it takes. And I think that's a lot of it. And you go in and you say, yes, I'm head of SEO, but they're the only SEO there, so that's why they're the head.
Yeah. Now, moving on to the SEO community, you've seen it all in your years. What frustrates you about the industry?
Yes. Well, how long have you got? I've got another 5 hours. I think it's people just need a brain. They just need to start thinking for themselves. They just I don't know. It's like I see something. Well, why are you doing that? Why don't you see that that's not for you? You know, and I think a lot of things that's written as well, there's no context to it. And I've seen businesses and marketing teams follow a certain strategy somebody's written about in a case study because there's no context. For instance, well, we did this and we did this over that period and we achieved this, but they didn't tell you all the elements around it.
Yeah.
They didn't tell you, well, that was for a brand everyone knows. So, we can sneeze and get 100 links.
Yeah.
It's the context. I mean, there's not much context within the industry. People talk about things, but they don't give scenarios. They're just talking about things, and it just, for me, it doesn't really frustrate me. I just think, well, why don't you ask these things? Why don't you see it? Why are you moving the whole strategy based on what somebody said or written when there's no context around it?
Yeah.
And I think there's many, many positive things that's happened to the industry as well over time. It's not, if all you do is try and focus on what makes you angry, well, you're going to go through your days angry. It's about being positive as well. It's about looking at things. Again, anybody can ask me anything they want. I'm totally open. If somebody doesn't agree with what I'm saying, I will have a respectful conversation with them. But I'll also ask them to justify why they think that. Am I always right in certain circumstances? No. But if we don't be respectful to one another, we won't have that conversation. And I think a lot of, not a lot, but in certain circumstances, things have maybe got heated because people have got a brick wall in front of them. They don't want to be seen as stupid, but if they just ask others, say, please, could you just let me know why you think that? Then you can start having a proper conversation with people. And I think that's, in the industry, I think if more people did that, we'd have more respectful and meaningful conversations.
So after 2 decades in the industry, what makes you stay in SEO and love SEO?
It's a combination of things. It's not so much SEO itself, but it's being in a position to make a difference. Being in a position to make a real difference. Like a couple of weeks ago, I did a 1 hour problem-solving session with a business, and I got paid very, very well for that 1 hour. But the problem was that if we didn't solve it, people's jobs was at stake. People would lose their jobs. And it's things like that. Well, in that 1 hour, we solved it. And I not only helped to save those jobs, I also helped to, give them a few tips on how they can progress. For me, it's making a real difference to individuals. And I think a lot of the industry forget that it's not a website they're working on. It's people's lives.
Yeah.
That business they're working on, if it doesn't work out, what's the impact for that business? It's not just their jobs. It impacts their families. You know, it has a massive, massive knock-on effect. So every decision made from every single SEO that's got the power to make those decisions has an impact. It has either a positive or negative or zero impact. You know, so it's so important to these individuals. And I've had business owners on the phone crying because their 30-year business that they built up has basically tanked because of something an SEO has done or not done.
Right.
And everyone in that business, as a result, lost the job.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's what really frustrates me, and that's what keeps me in the industry. And that's why I do training. And that's why I'm an advisor. And that's why I speak on stage. Because it makes a real difference.
Wow. Powerful stuff, Mark. Powerful stuff. Where can people find you online?
Well, I'm on Twitter and on LinkedIn a lot. Just search Mark A Preston. You'll find my website. You'll find my socials. Yeah, I mean, I'm open to conversations about anything, you know, even if it's unrelated to SEO. I've, you know, helped individuals. So I'm always happy to chat to anybody about their career paths or techniques, or maybe they've a problem they don't want to share publicly. So just search my name, Mark A Preston.
I'll have those links in the description as well, Mark. Thank you so much for your time. Have a brilliant day, and we'll catch up again soon.
We certainly will. Thank you for having me anyway. It's been a pleasure.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Mark. Cheers.